I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is the Thursday, December 2nd, Buncombe County Board of Education meeting. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here tonight. My name is Dean Shatley. I'm the board's attorneys. Because this is the board's December meeting, it is their organizational meeting where they will elect their chair and their vice chair. And for that reason, I get the privilege of opening the meeting and getting through the elections of the officers. But before we get to that, if you would please rise and join me. We have tonight for the presentation of colors, the Inca High School Air Force JROTC, instructed by Major Kevin DeBoer, U.S. Air Force, and Master Sergeant Douglas Draper. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. As many of you know this week, sorry guys. Thank you to the Inca High School JROTC. As many of you know this week, there was a school shooting in Oakland, Michigan. Please keep that school system, the school, the teachers, the students, and their families in your thoughts and your prayers. Would you please join me for a moment of silence? Thank you. You may be seated. Board members, now is the time for the election of the chair and the vice chair. We will first have the election of the chair, and so I'll open the floor for nominations. Nominations do not require a second. Are there any nominations for chair?
I'll make the nomination to nominate Ms. Ann Franklin for board chair.
Ms. Churchill nominates Ms. Franklin. Ms. Franklin, do you accept?
I do.
Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I will close the floor for nominations. Since there is only one person running, we'll just do this by voice vote. All in favor of Ms. Franklin as chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please don't interrupt the meeting. Now we'll have the election of vice chair, so I'll open up the floor for nominations. Any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Amy Churchill.
Ms. Churchill, do you accept?
I do, thank you.
Are there any other nominations for vice chair? I'll close the floor. Seeing as just one person has been nominated, it will be a voice vote. All in favor for Ms. Churchill as vice chair, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Franklin, Ms. Churchill. I will hand this back to you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Could I get a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time tonight, we have special music performance by the T.C. Robertson High School Orchestra, who's instructed by Elizabeth Terry, and I'm going to ask Laura Mitchell, our arts person, to come forth and be in charge. Is this when we met? Yeah. I guess we
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board. Dr. Baldwin, Swanger, and Mr. Huff. Tonight, we have the pleasure of having the T.C. Robertson High School Orchestra students, directed by Miss Elizabeth Terry. And I'm going to let them go ahead and come in and set up. Miss Terry is in her 6th year of teaching at T.C. Robertson, and she has also been involved with the Asheville Youth Symphony Orchestra and the Henderson County Youth Symphony Orchestra. And she herself is a violinist. And I do want to invite the board to come up so you can see the students. Mr. Nathan Allison is the principal of TC, and he's here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Allison, for being here. And thank you, parents, for being here. On the violin, we have Abrielle Anderson, Moksh Desai Butler, Jennifer Libero Artiega, Emerson Linthicum, Anna O'Kelly. On the viola, we have Delilah Cruz and Ella Kaiser. On the cello, we have Teddy Howell. And on the bass, we have Lucas Atzlin and Michael Keene. Thank you, T.C. Robertson. That was beautiful. I know I'm much calmer now. It's so wonderful to hear live music. And I do want to say this is just a portion of the orchestra. Thank you, students, for taking time out of your busy schedules for being here tonight.
Dr. Baldwin, that's a great lead-in for you. Oh, they're coming back in. I forgot. Thank you to all of the instrumentalists that came tonight. It's so nice to see what our school system, what you are doing to celebrate our school system. And thank you.
Give them one more round of applause. What a great way to start a meeting. I didn't plan this, but my first comment actually has to do with recognizing the excellence in our fine arts program all across Buncombe County. I wanted to specifically talk about our 2022 All-County High School Honors Chorus and the excellent evening concert in their performance on November 16th at the Diane Wortham Center for Performing Arts. We had several board members that were there that enjoyed that particular performance. The Honors Chorus is made up of 87 student voices in representation of all 6 of our school districts. A special thanks to Laura Mitchell. We heard from Laura. She introduced the group this afternoon. She's our district-wide arts education specialist. Appreciate you, Laura, for your dedicated efforts to coordinate the event. And you're becoming a pro with that now. What is that, 3 in a row? We're 3 in a row now, right? Good. We now have an official state budget in place. This biennial budget directs the allocation of state funds for the current 2021-22 school year and subsequently 2022-2023. Governor Cooper signed the final version just prior to the Thanksgiving holidays, and it contains numerous components that we're certainly thankful for. From the operations budget standpoint, that's from the entire district, the hold harmless provision regarding funding based on student average daily membership is certainly appreciated. In regards to salary and benefits, both recurring salary increases and one-time stipends, all categories of Buncombe County school employees were recognized. I think that may be a first since I've been superintendent. an average of 2.5% in recurring salary increase each of the current and following school year will be in place for all certified and classified employees. The increased salary for the current school year will actually be paid retroactive to July 1st, 2021. An important note regarding our classified hourly paid employees, our child nutrition staff, our custodians, our transportation staff, our maintenance staff, who are so incredibly important to this school system. The state has established a minimum floor of $13 per hour for the current year, and that minimum floor will increase to $15 per hour in 2022-23. So we're excited for our classified staff. Classroom teachers have the potential to receive from the state $2,800 of one-time stipends. And in addition, they, along with all BCS employees, courtesy of the vote of the school board, will receive $1,200 from our ESSER funds as a retention incentive. Likewise, school principals, we have a few of those in the audience tonight, they will qualify for state stipends totaling $2,800. And for all other employees, and that's both certified and hourly paid, they will receive a state stipend of either $1,500 or $1,000, depending on their current salary being below or above a $75,000 ceiling. As with any adopted state budget, it takes significant time for our finance team to verify with DPI the exact dollar allotments coming from the state. You may recall the three, what we call non-negotiables. You've heard that term quite a bit from me. Those are increases in salary as well as retirement and health insurance rates. Those are all estimated or projected in our annual budget that we make every May in a request to the commissioners. The number crunching and verification that's taking place determines how close our estimates and our projections are to the reality of the state budget figures. And that's especially important for Buncombe County Schools, which is considered a large system. We're the 13th largest system in the state, and we have 743 locally paid employees. December is a short but important month of instruction out in the schools, and a reminder especially to our parents, that next Tuesday the 7th is an early student dismissal for professional learning activities, and then December 20th begins our holiday break. That concludes my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Baldwin. At this time, it's good news.
What everyone's been waiting for. Good evening, Dr. Baldwin, Madam Chair, members of the board. So we have lots of good news items to bring you this evening. First up, we want to begin our good news by recognizing one of our outstanding music teachers. Miss Laura Mitchell, our arts education specialist, is going to come on down and help us recognize Miss Elisa Baker. And Miss Baker, where are you? Come on down, and you can come stand in the middle, because it's your special moment.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. I have the pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Elisa Baker. She may not be a stranger to you. She's in her 25th year of teaching choir. She's the choral director at TC Robertson High School. And she's student taught actually at Irwin High School. And during her tenure at TC, she's grown the choral department from 32 students to over 225 each year. She has an amazing choral program it encompasses 5 performing ensembles. And in addition to that, which if that's not enough, she is the color guard instructor with the marching band and show designer for the marching band. And she also is the director for the school-wide musical each spring, and works with the theater teacher and has produced over 26 musicals in her career. And if you haven't been to TC to see one of the musicals, you need to get out there because they're always amazing. She also works with Mars Hill University with the Choral Festival, and she's the chair-elect for the high school choral section of the North Carolina Music Educators Association. She was the 2014 TC Robertson Teacher of the Year, as well as for the District of Robertson. And she's been the Mix 96.5 Teacher of the Month, amongst other awards. She also has amazed me during COVID. DPI had asked for some performances, and she sent in an amazing performance of her choral students singing, and it was shown across sort of the whole state. And she is an amazing person to be around. There's no wonder that you have grown your choral program, because you are a student magnet. They love you, and she has amazing performances. I invite you to come out to TC and hear her. So it is wonderful that you've been recognized by the state as the North Carolina Music Educator Association Teacher of the Year for the high school choral section. And I'm so happy that you were awarded in Winston-Salem in November, and we're so very proud of you. Congratulations, Ms. Baker.
Amy?
Come on up. Group photo. And for our next item of good news this evening, we want to recognize the Irwin High School Waffle Warriors. These students recently placed first in the state and second in the region in the Junior Chef competition. So to help us with that recognition, we'll have Taylor Baldwin, director of our CTE program, and their teacher, Miss Lacey Davis, come on down. And if Waffle Warriors, if you guys could stand in the middle, please.
Thank you, Stacia. Katie Rice is unable to join us tonight, but I hope you carry these words to her. I wanted to express how proud I am of this team. The impacts that Lacey and Katie have made at Irwin High, this is not a new thing. So we're very proud of you guys. And not only did they do first place in the state, but from our point of view, the amount of work you guys have put in for this time during COVID, it is very difficult for hands-on competitions to take place. So we are very proud of you guys, and congratulations. Lacey, I'll let you do a couple words about the kids there.
All right, I just want to mention that the North Carolina Junior Chef is in partnership with NCFCCLA. It has this beautiful traveling trophy that we received. We took it away from Wake County and brought it to Buncombe County. Year of Junior Chef, and this is the first ever virtual competition that we've had. So I'm proud of the team that we won this virtual competition, and then we qualified to compete against the Southeast states, and we received second place. Second place isn't too shabby. They received full tuition to Sullivan University, and they've just got their scholarship certificates from that. We've received their patches to put on their chef coats. And this team really, just like any sports team or ensemble, they put in a lot of dedication and practice hours, even worked at home to do that. And we still managed to submit a video and a recipe. Our recipe was Holy Smoke Show Waffle. And it took our Taco Tuesday game all the way to Waffle Wednesday. And in fact, these wafflers were making waffles today at Irwin High School. I apologize, there's no samples. We made gingerbread waffles, and you know, they're just Warrior Wafflers, so we're doing this every day. And I want to introduce these in students. We've got Braden Ledford and Madeline Romsdahl and Holden White. And we are missing our team member, Emma Googe, is working tonight, but we're proud of these four and the accomplishment that they've made and the scholarship that they've earned as well. So.
Go ahead, and we'll have you stand off to the side. Let's let them do their presentation, and then we'll get you guys in the next photo.
Yeah.
In this shot or next?
If y'all go ahead and take a photo of this, and then we'll get to Brian and Dr. Now you're up. Well done. Can we do one where you guys are holding up your patch when Ben's done with the shot? You ready? Can you guys hold up your patch? So for our last item of good news this evening, we want to recognize one of our many talented teachers for her dedication to her students. She was recently featured in a WLOS Thanks to Teachers segment, and we thought she had a wonderful message and represented our educators well. So if Miss Karina Padilla could come on down. She's from Candler Elementary, and she's going to share more about her teaching philosophy with us.
Okay, I pull this down. Yeah. Okay, hi. Well, first I'd like to start off by thanking Dr. Baldwin, Madam Chair, board members, and staff. Thank you for inviting me here today. I was recently asked why teaching. In my short 7 years of teaching, that is not something that I reflect on as often as I should. And if I'm being perfectly honest, my why is something that I stumbled upon unexpectedly. Minouche Shafiq, who is the director of the London School of Economics and Political Science, says that in the past, jobs were about muscles. Now, jobs are about brains, but in the future, they'll be about the heart. I never dreamed of being a teacher, and school was actually very difficult for me, having been an ELL student and later diagnosed with ADD. Higher education was not something that I intended on pursuing past high school. And yet here I am in one of the few professions that requires all three: muscles, brains, and so much heart. In 2005, I graduated high school and joined the North Carolina National Guard at the age of 17. My family has strong ties to the military. I have sisters in every branch that are serving or have served. I have a dad who served in the Air Force, and my grandpa Hall was a very proud Marine, as they all are. I have served overseas and have trained and served in many stateside missions. It was this call to service that motivated me to pursue a degree in criminal justice. One of my criminal justice professors had a saying that I'm sure as educators we have heard or repeated, and it was something along the lines of, education is the key, it will open doors for you. It was my last semester and one of my final projects that included a portion on court hearings. I was assigned juvenile hearings, taking notes on cases for children 16 years of age or younger. I no longer remember how many cases I took notes on or how many children I saw cycling through the courtrooms during my short hours there. All I remember is one specific case. It was a young girl who looked to be about the same age as one of my nieces. And without getting into the details or the sadness of her case, I will say that I remember wanting to help her, but there was nothing I could do. Helplessness is not something that I was used to feeling, either in my military career or in what I pictured as I looked towards my life in law enforcement. This young girl had no one in her corner, no one at home fighting for her. There were no role models and no leaders. And as a college student, sitting in the back of this courtroom trying to take notes, all I could think about is how hopeless and how alone this child must feel as she pleaded to the judge to let her go home. But with no adult there to advocate for her, it seemed very lost. It was this moment in this one case that has allowed me to stand here today and share my story with all of you. Not being one to accept feeling helplessness, I knew there had to be a way to intervene before more children ended up alone, scared, or in courtrooms pleading for second and third chances. And just like that, education is the key, and it will open doors for you. I made the choice then to pursue a degree in education to help kids who, like this young girl in court, just needed someone to give her the opportunity to open doors, someone to make doors available to her, show her how to open them, and make her feel worthy and deserving of opening them. As I reflect on my why to teaching, especially these past 2 years, I know that I feel as many other educators do. We feel tired. Tired because our career path does require muscle, brains, and so much heart. But in that tiredness, I am also honored to be part of a community and a county that has so many resources and so many programs in place to open doors for children. A community and a county that makes a conscious effort to ensure that all children are cared for, not only at school, but at home. A county and a community that places our students first, making so many efforts to ensure that our kids do not feel alone and that they do not feel hopeless. And above all, I am especially honored to work alongside educators and staff members who, like me, are just doing the best we can to help kids open doors through education. And sometimes when society says that education is not enough, I am honored to work with other educators who are passionate about what they do, that they are helping our students kick those doors down. As we wrap up this 2021 year, I hope that you all take a few moments to remember your why. Take a few minutes to recall all of the doors you've introduced to children, all of the doors you've helped them open, and most importantly, remember that education is the key and it will open doors for you. Dr. Baldwin, Madam Chair, board members, and staff, thank you again for having me here today.
Those wonderful and inspiring words. And we do have a little bit more to our presentation. If our 2021 BCS Teacher of the Year, Jason Rhodes, could come on down, as well as Delana Parker and Brandon Green.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Baldwin, members of the board. The Ruth Henderson Award recognizes an altruistic teacher whose light shines for every student who, by definition, gives of him or herself unselfishly. Mrs. Ruth Muse Henderson was a former Irwin High Teacher of the Year who taught English and journalism. Her life was claimed by cancer in 1990, and her memory lives on through this award. While there may not be as many in our schools who knew Ruth Henderson, her legacy is still felt in the hallways of our schools and the lives of our students. What a teacher like Ruth Henderson does, or did, is provide a template. She provided a template for excellence, and through the years, teachers follow that example and build upon it, changing with the times and student needs and building upon a legacy that others set before us. There are other teachers like her in our county, teachers who give and look for more ways to give and meet students with what they need to be successful and lead fulfilling lives. There are teachers who are a lighthouse in a storm, providing comfort and safety, guidance in the tempest of our time. We're going to honor one of those teachers tonight, and I want to use her words to show what a special teacher she is and how the spirit of a great teacher like Ruth Henderson continues to be alive and well in our schools. In an educational philosophy essay, this teacher writes, "When a parent admits that we missed Zoom today because I lost track of time, it was grace that was needed. When a parent asks about the attendance policy for specials because adding extra Zooms is too much and we're working past dinner time, it was grace that she needed. When an overwhelmed student doesn't attend Zoom meetings for a week and it's because dad left and my heart is broken, it was grace that she needed. Likewise, when my families had to come to school twice in 1 week because their teacher printed the wrong paper packets, they showed me grace. When their teacher logged everyone out of their math Zoom because she had to adjust her laptop and press the power button instead, they showed me grace. As a classroom, family, and a community, we have overcome great obstacles. We'll continue to rise above any challenges we are faced with, but not before feeling the pressure of those challenges and making mistakes. As our scholars make mistakes, as their families make mistakes, and as we, their educators, their leaders, their role models, as we make mistakes, we must remember grace. I've had the fortune to read many great teachers' philosophies of education, but I'm not sure I've been more moved by another teacher's words, which is why I'm very proud to announce on behalf of the Teacher of the Year Committee that Ms. Karina Padilla is our 2021-2022 Ruth Henderson Award winner.
Ms. Padilla, you are the person that opens doors, opens your heart, gives grace, and you've got great muscles as you drive those big, heavy machines for our country. So thank you. We're proud of you. Can't think of a better person to show what a Ruth Henderson teacher looks like. Congratulations.
You can come back down. It'll be okay. You can come back and have us dance in the middle of the room again. Because we're not through with you yet. I know, what a great night, right? Oh, Karina, I was on that Teacher of the Year committee too, and I have to say I cried when I read your information. I mean, it was so incredible. And as the foundation director now, I just want you to know how impressed I am with all of you. Your heart is certainly not Grinch-like, I can promise you. It's just so amazing, and it touches everyone. So here's what I want to say to you is education, you're right, it's a calling. And the calling extends even in retirement times. I can attest to that. And so retirees, we exhibit these same characteristics of love of learning, love of classroom, and love of students. So on behalf of the North Carolina Retired, I have to get this right, hold on, North Carolina Retired School Personnel Organization, we have a gift for you, and I'm going to call down Mr. Rick Mannheim and Miss Phoebe Watson, and we're going to present you something.
Wow. As a career teacher, I can say that I am incredibly impressed. And if Karina Padilla is any example of what we have teaching out in our schools, our kids are in incredibly good hands. Rick Mannheim is vice president of one of the vice presidents of our local organization of the North Carolina Retired School Personnel, and I am in charge of the Grant in Aid Committee. Each year, members of our local organization give money to a special fund. It's totally optional, and they give what they feel they can. And we gather all that money together, and we give grants to several teachers in our area. And this year, I am absolutely thrilled to be able to present a certificate to Karina, which indicates that she is one of our grant winners this year. And the grants usually range $500 to $600. It's not a lot of money, but it hopefully will give the teacher a little bit extra to do some of those things that the budget just cannot cover. And the only stipulation is that it be something that will enhance the teacher's ability or the educator's ability to help students. So we have a certificate, and
money.
Yes, I am incredibly grateful to Christy Cheek and to the Buncombe County Schools Foundation and those who helped them to recommend this particular wonderful candidate. They do the recommending. We simply do take a look at things and say, yeah, this is the right person, and we had no trouble doing that. And so there will be a check. It comes from the foundation, but the money comes from NCRSP, the local organization. So thank you very, very much.
And that concludes good news for this evening.
Okay, thank you.
No, not at all.
No, just Martin. All right, okay. At this time, on the agenda, we'll have public comment.
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have four now public comment signups for this evening. Prepared to proceed?
Yes.
Sorry, it's a little hard to hear you right now.
I'm sorry.
Our first sign up today is Greg Parks. I'd like to invite Greg Parks for public comment. I'll remind you that you'll have 3 minutes, and I'll give you a motion at 1 minute.
Greg Parks. I'm here to talk about a few of the items on the agenda, and hopefully there'll be some answers later on these questions that I have for those agenda items. First thing, obviously, is our mask policy. As we can see here, this is a Inca wrestling team. They are on the mat, close quarters, no mask. They're not currently performing any physical practice or competition, which was the exception to our mask policy. Here we see elementary school kids playing band separated in a big gym, but they have to wear the mask. Why not the wrestlers? Here again, Irwin High School, basketball, a full gym, no mask. You know who's wearing a mask? Our sheriff deputy right down here in the corner. Nobody else. Players on the bench that's not actively participating. The coach not wearing a mask. Here are our students in the classroom, separated individually at their own desk. They have to wear a mask. If we're going to have a mask policy, let's at least be consistent and fair with that policy and apply it across all the students of Buncombe County, not just the ones that ain't athletes. I'm sure our chefs and our music performers would love to participate without wearing a mask at their events. Second thing on the agenda item, I'm not sure what this seal request is, but I'd be concerned about this. Is this something new or something we've had in previous years? If it's new, why do we need it now? What kind of security features will be in place to prevent misuse of this seal for the chair? The next item, the lights at AC Reynolds High School. $745,000 investment. Is this a necessity item? I don't think so. How many athletic contest practices have had to be canceled at AC Reynolds High School due to inefficient lighting? None that I know of. What is the environmental impact on this new system? Has anyone asked? Has anyone researched that? What are the energy savings from this new system? Are there any? Or will energy costs go up? What is the return on this investment? Is there a return? Does AC Reynolds have a booster club? Are they helping support this cost of this project? Do all other athletic facilities in Buncombe County schools have the same capable system as the one being proposed? I would say not, especially the middle schools. Why is the board willing to spend $745,000 on a lighting system that's not necessary, but expect teachers and parents to fill basic needs for classrooms at the start of each school year? Always a long list of items you need. Why do they expect PTOs all over Buncombe County to work hard to raise money for our schools and for our classroom needs when we have this kind of money? Our teacher over here talked about opening doors and knocking down walls. In 341 days, the new election, change is coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment, please. Again, you'll have 3 minutes. Please begin with your name.
I'm Sarah Ratliff. I live in the Reynolds district. I am here this evening to make parents aware of the imminent danger to children at Oakley Elementary School in the Reynolds district. The city and county are proposing spending over $9 million on a low-barrier homeless shelter less than a mile away from Oakley at the former Ramada Inn at River Ridge. I would like to know the steps, if any, that the board has made to advise the Asheville City Council and Buncombe County Commission of the dangers involved in placing this type of dwelling so close in proximity to a school. Currently, the shelter is in pre-approval stages and is currently housing 80 tenants. The businesses at River Ridge are dealing with individuals ransacking their dumpsters, leaving drug paraphernalia in their parking lot, and performing lewd acts in and around the businesses. The proposed plan is to increase the number of tenants in the facility to 200. There have already been confirmed reports of homeless individuals being found trespassing on buses at Oakley and leaving needles behind when they are run off of the property. This is a direct threat to the safety and well-being of both the staff and students at that school. I have been unable to confirm a stance from the board regarding this ongoing situation. I have spoken to numerous parents who have children who attend Oakley, and none of them have received any communication warning of potential issues. How can the members of the board sit and allow such an atrocity in the district without a word? Is it not the job of the board to guarantee a safe, secure environment for both its employees and its students? I have had numerous parents tell me that they have reached out to the board members regarding their concerns on this project, and none of them have received a callback or an email response. This is a perfect opportunity for the members of the board to take a stand and speak on behalf of the communities that elected them, or is this another example of a cause that the board refuses to address? Burying your heads in the sand and turning a blind eye to a situation that has direct repercussions on the safety of a school in your district is shameful. You were all elected to be a voice for parents, students, and teachers, and sadly it seems like the majority of you have forgotten that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call Sarah Wilcox for public comment, please. And this will be followed by Aria Williams. Again, please start with your name.
Good evening. My name is the Reverend Sarah Wilcox. I'm grateful to be among you tonight as I rushed from my daughter's basketball to get here to sign in for public comment. I returned to the game and I made it back. Go Rockets, and congratulations, Lady Warriors. So I'm committed to a lot of things. I'm committed to my children's education, their passions, to the wider world that is God's amazing creation. The delay on me being here meant that I missed the moment of silence. Thank you for offering that time, especially in light of the mass shooting that took place at Oxford High School in Michigan yesterday that left 4 young people dead and continues to be caused by a culture of violence fed by access to firearms, disregard for our collective responsibility for one another by defaulting to individual rights, and refusal to make meaningful policy that protects our children. I appreciate the intention behind it each time, despite a regular insistence to disrupt the prayer, as if God doesn't work in the silence. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 5 through 6, it is written, "And whenever you pray, do not be like hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." Perhaps we can all agree that God doesn't ask us to disrupt the silence with prayer in defiance of the intention of those holding this space. Thank you to the board and to the board chair for the intention with which you lead and hold this space, as well as your ongoing intention to have policies that protect our children. My own child was exposed to COVID in school, but because she is vaccinated and masked at school, her studies and her sports were not interrupted. Your choice to follow public health protocols linked to science ensures that my children have access to their education and activities, while also acknowledging their own responsibility to not spread COVID to their classmates, teachers, and family at home. This protects the students my husband engages as at the university and the parishioners that I care for each week. So thank you. As we move through this holiday season, please know my hope for each of you, your families, and the communities you serve is a peace that transcends the chaos of these times. Hope that propels forward innovation and change and progress that you are committed to. Joy that is bigger than the material things, but deep in your bones. And love in abundance, which when poured into us from the Holy One allows us to flow over with compassion and concern for others, kindness in the face of anger and indifference, and the passion to co-labor for a world that is just and generous, free, healthy, and well for the children for whom we are responsible. May it be so.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to call Aria Williams as our final public comment for this evening. Again, you'll have 3 minutes, and please start with your name.
My name is Aria, and I'm a former student. The majority of my school career was in a time of normal, and regardless of the immense impact of individual teachers on students, normal and the education system are built on exploitation, denying people's needs, and the unpaid or underpaid labor of students, teachers, and other staff. The school system cannot properly respond to the COVID crisis for the same reason that it believes students vaping can be addressed through tactics from the war on drugs. Creating punitive and inflexible systems that demand standards of normal only exacerbate the issues they claim to solve. Students, teachers, and the rest of the staff who make our schools possible desperately need the support and flexibility that normal denies. All staff deserve a $25 hour hazard pay increase for at least 3 years beginning now, especially with rising inflation, the economic crisis, and the current stipends and pay increases are just simply not enough. Staff also need paid sick leave and expanded health care coverage. Students deserve lightened schoolwork, increased online options, and more time to rest. Everyone needs free PPE, increased health protections, and more reliable COVID testing. Rapid testing only has a 20 to 30% accuracy rate in asymptomatic individuals who is the majority of vaccinated and young people who get COVID. If the board was serious about public health, you'd be working with the HHS to provide free testing to the community at school campuses on the weekend. Despite claims of normal, the pandemic is shockingly worse this year. To get an idea of the scale, we started last school year with 2,000 cases, and this one with 21,000 cases. Today, we reached 30,000 cases in Buncombe County. Things are about to get dramatically worse, as we are already seeing in much of Europe. The largest reason why the pandemic has appeared to end until now is a lack of testing. The government at every level still believes what Donald Trump said last year: when you have less testing, you have less cases. But in reality, all we have is the illusion of it. Now, however, the tide has turned, and the cases no longer mirror testing, and as the percent positive ticks up again. At the end of last January, we were at the edge of 15,000 cases. Today, in less than a year since that point, we've had another 15,000 cases. 440 people in Buncombe County have died. Those are our community members, our brothers and our sisters. The crisis is way worse now, and the only reason why it appeared to be better was because of a lack of testing. But as you can see, that's no longer the case. We have as much testing today as we had then, but the peak is incredibly worse. You need to be doing more to protect everyone in your school system and in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this does conclude our public comment this evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we will receive our report from our external auditor. The green shirt wearing my classroom. I would have had a come to Jesus meeting with her already. Yeah. Thank you for waiting. All right, Ms. Thorpe.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Baldwin, and staff. I'm here to introduce Mr. Mike White. He is a member of our external auditing team and does an independent audit, and this will be a report on our 2021 year that wrapped up June 30th. Mike.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, members of Dr. Baldwin, pleased to be here tonight, and really think I picked a good evening to be here. Got to see the orchestra and the award for the Teacher of the Year. Very moving presentations in both regards, so feel fortunate to see that. I think all of you have received the financial report and the compliance report prior to this, and I'm going to tell you it was a very good report. It's probably the best type of report you can have from us. There were no findings, anything like that. You have unqualified reports or unmodified reports on the financial statements and all the compliance items, and you were able to build a fund balance. We'll go over that a little bit. And the significance of this is, I think you all know, our firm audits 68 of the 115 districts throughout the state. And what we've been seeing this year with the influx of the coronavirus fund, the CARES money and whatnot, we've been seeing a lot more internal control issues and findings relating to that. So I think this is something that the district should be very proud to have a very clean audit report this year. And again, I'm going to do things a little bit different than what we did in the past, but I think hopefully you'll bear with me on that. The main thing that I want to point out within the audit report is going to be your change in fund balance. And if anyone wants to follow along with me, you can look in the bound set of statements on page 17. But what we normally focus on is going to be in your general fund on the change in fund balance. And this is going to be the fourth line from the bottom on the leftmost column. And I'm pleased to report that the district was able to add roughly $2.4 million this year. And this is really what we would recommend and what we've been recommending to all of our districts, to try to grow that fund balance, if at all possible, while you're getting the CARES money or the cliff that's going to be coming in 23-24. And that's really what I sort of want to talk about that and focus on from our experience on what we're seeing throughout the state, the financial challenges that districts have. This year, I used to compare the influx of money with the CARES and whatnot and coronavirus money to when the ARA money came in the financial collapse of 2008 and 9. But when those monies came in, there was really no impact to the educational system at that point. That was really additional monies that the districts received to help stimulate the economy, to keep things going. And that was part of the reason this flow of money. But this time, you've got a different set of circumstances where you have the pressures of the learning loss, things like that, the different emotional and social needs. And that's where districts are spending the monies on those type of items. But to us, it's a very good thing, and I've talked to lots of boards about this. You've got this influx of money, you implement new procedures, hire new people for those items, but you've always got to keep in mind that y'all are well aware, LEAs cannot raise taxes. You have no taxing authority. So what happens in 23-24 whenever there's a certain instructional program that you like, and you want to keep that going forward? Cities, counties, states, federal governments, you can raise property taxes, income taxes. Y'all do not have that leadway, that flexibility. So at that point, if we don't build the fund balance up a little bit for when that happens, then you're at the mercy of your funding agencies. And that's really what I wanted to just talk about, some items on that, specifically to Buncombe County and what we're seeing throughout the state also. Everywhere we're seeing, and I'm assuming this is the same here, we've got wage pressures, rising costs, and a lot of times districts cannot find employees, essentially no matter what the pricing is, to fill certain needs. And I'm assuming that you're feeling that pressures also. We talked about the learning loss, combating that, the social and emotional needs, and what we're seeing also, and this is true for Buncombe County, if I go back to 2014 up through today, you've got roughly a 10% drop in ADM. And again, that's what we're seeing in a lot of the districts. And that's just going to make it even more difficult whenever that, I keep calling it the cliff happens in 23-24. We've talked about this in other years, the rising cost of benefits, your post-employment health care contribution rates, and your retirement rates. These are the rates that are set by the state of North Carolina. You do not have any ability to vote on those to change them. They tell you what that amount is each year. If you look at it going back to 2014, and I don't know why I picked 14, but that's just what I picked. 14 to 22, you went from 14.5 to 22.9%. And I guarantee you that's going to go up in 23. And what I always tell the boards in all my presentations is that increased cost is sort of being hidden now, I think, because you've got the influx of monies with the CARES money and the coronavirus money. So again, in my mind, that's going to make it a little bit harder when you have that cliff in 23-24, so to try to raise those benefits, to raise the fund balance if you can. We're also seeing a change in the employer-employee relationship. No one likes change. We talk about that all the time in passing sometimes, but the coronavirus all we've had the last 2 years is change. And the employees have pressures. I mean, I don't have to go into the details of that. And that has put more strain, I think, on keeping good, qualified employees when you combine that with the wage pressures on that. And I know I'm maybe sort of rambling on a little bit, but it's just sort of the things that we're trying to make sure that we, as your independent auditors, tell the boards to be ever aware of these items that are impacting you and how it's going to impact the future, and to use this audit report that we give you for the results of last year to help you plan for the years going forward is really what we recommend. Does that make sense to everyone when we're going over there? All right. And again, sorry to ramble on, but that's sort of the points I wanted to make on the statements. The other thing that I always want to point out is the results of the child nutrition program. And I'm just going to flip over to page 24 if anybody did want to look and actually see the statement of cash flows. I just look at the child nutrition program. I use the old adage of cash is king. I just see if cash went up or down in the child nutrition program. And if you're on that page, if you would look third line from the bottom, you'll see that you added about $1.4 million of cash this year. And again, that's exactly what we would hope to see. You're getting full reimbursement rate on meals from the federal government. They've raised that up. Everybody gets free meals. You got the full reimbursement rate, and that's the most profitable rate that you can get as a school board. You don't know how long that's going to continue in the future, so just want to make sure you're aware of that. But what we're seeing this year is exactly what we would want to see. And in conclusion, though, I'm just very thankful of all the cooperation we've got from everyone. We visit the schools, members of management, the different department heads, full access to all the information, and I'm just very appreciative of that. And again, it was a clean report, no findings, and something I think everyone at the district should be proud of. Does anyone have any questions?
Anyone have questions? Board? Thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment if I could.
Yes.
I've served on the boards of multiple nonprofits, smaller organizations that have much less complicated financials than we do. And in my experience of looking at audits, it is rare to find an audit with no findings. And I think we just really want to thank our finance team. That in itself is a huge accomplishment with an organization of this size, with this many people handling this many transactions across this huge a county. It's really a superhuman effort. So thank you so much to the finance team. I'm just really, really impressed with your team. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate the good news.
Thank you. If you have any questions later on, our phone number is on the audit reports, so feel free at any point to give us a call. We'll do what we can to help out.
All right, thank you. And I will congratulate you on coming here tonight when it's not snowing.
Thank you.
We're going to call for a little recess here. I believe a nice little 5-minute recess would be good. Thank you. started before.
Oh, are we not started yet?
I think they're rushing going. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, he's ready. Thank you, Mr. Bryant. He made the motion to accept the budget amendment. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Reynolds High School award of contract for stadium lighting. Clark Wyatt. Do any questions from the board on this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have some questions.
Yes. We've been discussing this off and on for a period of time, haven't we, Mr. Wyatt?
We have. Be glad to get it started, hopefully.
Indeed. Okay, Cindy.
I have several questions, so I'm going to take my mask off so I can be heard. First of all, on this item, there's the basic installation, and it looks like there are a couple of additions that we are not choosing to accept. Can you speak to that?
So the technology in the stadium lighting and LED industry has allowed for additional options in these systems that when we got the company to price it, we asked them, to provide these optional fees that if the Boosters Club is interested in that, they would be responsible for funding that the additional features. What we're asking approval for tonight is a basic system like we have at our other stadiums.
Okay. So what I understand you to say then is that the additional $19,500 and then $40,000, those two additional fees would potentially come from the boosters.
Correct.
If they happen at all. Okay, thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask, it says in the memo from you, use of this vendor will maintain equality across all high school stadium lighting. So can you talk a little bit more about what that means and where we are with stadium lighting across the whole school system?
So we have been working over the years replacing our tracks and our stadium lighting. And this would be field or stadium number 5. We're planning to replace the track in the future, and we replace the lights prior to the track so that we don't have to. It's hard to access the lights after the fact. And these lights come with a 25-year warranty, and they are accessible by climbing should repairs need to be made. So we don't have to get trucks and big equipment close to them. So this is keeping in pattern with what we've been doing. We've been doing the lights first, and then following the light installation, we will come back and replace the track.
So of our 6 traditional high schools, this is number 5, and there's one left after this?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from board members?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Wyatt, in regards to the lighting, would I be correct in saying that this is consistent with the other schools which we've already upgraded the lighting in, and we're trying to maintain, as I understand, parity and equity among all of our school districts? And this is basically bringing it up to the standard that we have established, and it's nothing more. And the add-ons that could be the boosters option certainly could be just that, the boosters option, but we are being consistent across the board with the lighting for these fields.
Yes, it's identical systems that we have installed at our other high schools.
Okay, and you mentioned LED lighting. Compared to what the energy consumption is right now for the lighting the stadiums, do you anticipate that there will be a reduction in the power cost?
About half.
One half.
About half the cost is what we're seeing, and the longevity and the beauty of these lights. It never fails. On Friday night we have a power glitch, right. And the old sodium vapor metal halide lights are off for 30 minutes when you lose power. If you lose it for a second, you're waiting for at least 30 minutes. These lights turn them on and off just like you do at your home. So that's a nice added feature as well, safety feature.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Wyatt.
I think the only thing that maybe would help as far as for public understanding, this amount of money that we're using for these stadium lights, I just want it to be clear that the pot essentially that money's coming from, it's not like that could be used on classroom expenses.
That's correct. Yeah. And you also have to remember, this is a little different. This is lighting a baseball field and a stadium together. Due to the fact, the way this field is designed, they share the poles on the visitor side, so it has to be done at the same time.
Okay, other questions from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Article 39, projects, selection of design teams and construction manager at risk. Seymour. Mr. Fearley, are there questions from the board? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now, the sole source vendor approval procurement request, Benchmark Education Company. And are there questions for Lisa Sharp or Tina Thorpe? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sole source vendor approval procurement request, Edmentum Incorporated, Lisa Sharp and Tina Thorpe. Questions for these ladies? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sole source vendor approval amended procurement request for Great Minds, Lisa Sharp, Tina Thorpe. Questions for these ladies from the board? I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? School improvement plans, Ms. Swanger. Any questions from the board? I'd like to say that it took me a good amount of time to figure out how to get into those boogers, but then when I did, I could read them every one. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consideration for Buncombe County Schools Return to Learn Plan and local face covering policies for Senate Bill 654, and that would be Dr. Baldwin. Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. The sequence of these slides are going to be very similar to what I've done really the past 3 months. We're going to begin by especially for the public's awareness, this is the actual statute that requires each and every school board in North Carolina to vote at least once a month on whether the face covering policy will be modified. So again, we're going to start with that particular slide. We're going to move to the 4 key metrics. And if you recall last month, what I was able to show you with these metrics is that all 4 were showing a decline. And the metrics are the daily number of people currently hospitalized. And by the way, this is for the entire state of North Carolina. This is statewide. The second metric, key metric, is the daily cases by data reported. A third is the positive tests as a percent of the total tests. And then the 4th key metric is the percentage of emergency room visits that are for COVID-like illness compared to previous seasons. And I would just point out in the big picture, looking at all 4 of these, that we see stability in the number of people currently hospitalized. Similar to the past board meeting, I want to say that we are continuing to see some very positive signs. But we also, when you look at the percent tests as the percent of the total tests that are positive, what you're seeing there of these 4 key metrics, this is the one that's on the incline. Now, why is that? Again, this runs through November. Is it potential of what we have heard is the holiday spike? Is this the beginning of that? We don't know. We don't yet know. But that is the one metric that, unlike last year, all four were moving downward, dipping downward, and this one is moving up on us. Daily cases by date reported, again, we're seeing a decrease there. And then the percentage of the emergency room visits for COVID-like illness, again, seeing that either stabilization or decline. So the majority good, but a real concern on those positive tests is a percent of the total tests that are taken. Okay, this is specific to Buncombe County Schools, and this is since the previous board meeting, which was November 4th. And we do have to keep in mind now that this is one less week than normally we would be presenting with these numbers because of the Thanksgiving holiday. And for staff, 32 cases, and for students, 157 cases. Now, just like the previous month, let's compare. Let's take a step back and compare to what was presented to you at this board meeting in November. And that 32 cases at the time was 47 staff cases, and the 157 cases last month, that was 259. So even taking in consideration that reduction of one full week out of these numbers, I think it does cause some concern regarding all right, let me back up. I think it does recognize that we are seeing some positivity, some light. We just need to keep going in this direction. Okay. A reminder to everyone that this board, one of the first, I believe, in the state that actually said, let's try to look at setting some standard metrics in our decision making in terms of where we move. And so this, again, is the language that was adopted months ago by this board. And let's focus in on what those standards show. And I guess I better start out by saying, in prefacing, by using that third paragraph, as a benchmark only and subject to consideration of all relevant factors, the Board of Education would consider a change in face covering protocol in consultation with our local Department of Health and Human Services if the following local metrics were realized. And then let's zero in on the reduction or amending those requirements. The percent positivity rate would remain below the state average, and we would, as a county, be coded as the yellow or blue on the CDC level of community transmissions. And that level of blue and yellow, that would recognize that we've moved into moderate or low. Ideally low is where we want to be on community transmissions. We also stipulated that we would look at the number of student and staff positive cases and quarantines significantly increasing over the 14 successive day time period. And in this case, in order to reduce that, they would be reduced or lessened over that 14 successive day time period. So those are the standards in terms of the metrics that we set much earlier. Okay, let's specifically look on the update, and I'm actually going to compare again. Last month, what did our map look like for the state from the CDC, and this is the level of community transmission. You can see in terms of the percent of positivity that for current, this is December 1, so backtrack one day ago, Buncombe County was at 5.8%, and the state of North Carolina was at 9.4%. Again, some concerns, and this is the same area when we looked at those four key metrics that are concerning at this point in time. Compare that to the previous month where Buncombe County was at 4.4% and the state of North Carolina at 4.5%. So we're seeing this rise, whether we want to say it's truly a spike or not, I think that remains to be seen, but it is showing an increase. This is the actual maps that we were able to take from the CDC. Again, level of community transmission. And you can see that back in November, previous board meeting compared to the current board meeting, we are actually seeing some positive signs across the state, aren't we? In fact, I think when you compare last month to this month, I believe the far yellow in the lower half, I believe that's Hyde County, but we're seeing again more and more moving toward this moderate or low transmission. But look where we're at in Buncombe County. We're remaining in that high level, which is indicated by the color red. Okay, so again, this is the comparison. Now, there was a question that you asked, I believe, 2 board meetings ago, so we put this slide in, trying to keep a current update on what this looks like, but realize boards meet during the weeknights almost, every night. Our attorneys are busy somewhere in the western part of the state. But as of November 19th, you can see the change from the previous, what I reported to you at the previous board meeting to current. Last month, there were 100 out of 115 systems in the state. There were 100 of those that were mandating masks. That's been reduced per November 19th to 72. And I mentioned Hyde County. That's interesting. It's hard probably to see if you're in the audience, but Hyde County moved to an optional mask for vaccinated students. So that's an interesting direction. That was the one school system that we've identified at this point in time that moved in that direction. So, but I'll also say to the board that we are aware of systems, one particularly close to us, that the board made a particular decision in terms of making masks optional across all grade levels, and then due to an increase that occurred fairly shortly afterwards in the number of quarantines and students being sent home, went back to mandatory masking for at least a certain level of grades. So we've got to remember that for face coverings, that certainly from a medical standpoint, from what we're hearing from our public health officials, is there's value in those face coverings in terms of proactively addressing potential COVID. But the advantage for us inside the schools during that school day especially is the face coverings allow us some additional ammunition to maximize the instructional time. And that, again, unless changes are made in terms of the guidelines that we follow, that's a very key point for us to keep in mind. Okay, I think I shared this slide with you. And Kim, I don't believe there was really any change in that at all. But this actually came from our State Department of Health and Human Services. I shared it with you last month. And essentially what it does is reinforce at least one of the standard metrics that you decided months ago to use to help you make these decisions. And that's that percent positivity. And they specifically identify that map from the CDC, and they specifically state that as long as it remains in that red or orange area where there's that high transmission rate within the community, that face coverings carry a fairly large weight in importance. So sort of a feel good, because again, I want to recognize that the board early on made a decision that we need some scientific metrics at least to guide with those decisions. And remember, the preface is that that's not all or none, but it helps guide your decisions. Also, I believe 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, a mask mandate from the county commissioners was extended through January 5th. So just keep that in mind as well. We also need to recognize that our next board meeting, because of the holiday break and how that falls, it will actually be the second Thursday in the month. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because what I would certainly come to you today from the district level is a recommendation to maintain the current face covering mandates that we have in place through 3 weeks of December and then the 2 weeks in January, and as we come back to that January 13th board meeting. Now, one reason at least, and this is from a superintendent looking at this, not a trained medical personnel or public health official, but it just seems the common sense factor. We're concerned of a potential spike. We're already seeing some indications that numbers are increasing on us with percent positivity. If a decision's made to move to a different status, then when we come back after the break in January, what's our date, Suzanne, coming back, students? January 2nd, then January 3rd, there would be a concern that we may be in a situation where that spike really has continued moving up the ladder, and we find ourselves, at least for a period of time, for about a week and a half, until we come back to a board meeting, minus an emergency meeting. So again, it just from a common sense standpoint, because I do believe when we come back on January 13th, we're going to have at least a reasonable chance to see what the impact of the holidays and the gatherings are going to be out in the community. To move in a different direction prior to that, it's hard for me to recommend that to you. So, any questions? Move through this probably a little faster than I should, but.
Go ahead.
I have one, you or Suzanne, because this is important to me to get this done. We've had a successful semester of keeping our kids in schools. What's our exam schedule for our high school students in January? Okay.
Of January?
So even if we were to change something on the 13th, it's likely as a board, I would think we wouldn't do it for Friday the 14th. We would be doing it for the following week or the week after, whatever.
Check that date.
Right.
That would be reasonable.
Possibly there's a
Monday after. I just think we need to make sure we've factored that into, because that would be, to change in the midst of that, I think might be, without some clear indication that we definitely need to change, which we've not seen from the data, we just, to be as consistent as we can, because this year we go back to those exams being after Christmas. We've had, what do we have, 2 years? 2 years where we were able to get the exams, 2 years we were able to get the exams before Christmas with the different calendar, and we lost that ability to do that this year. So we go back to that break and then coming back for a week before those exams start.
Which is not ideal, but again, I just think that's the common sense approach. You've got to look at the calendar, and again, from our standpoint, the recommendation coming to you is certainly the health of our community, our students, our staff is a high priority, but we're wanting to maximize that instructional time. We are still, I promise you, we are still in a challenge for recovery. Not only from the academic standpoint, but as we've mentioned before, the social-emotional piece. But just like we're seeing in a lot of places with COVID data, I think there's reason to be optimistic about this, but cautiously optimistic.
Questions from other board members? Then I would entertain a motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I would be happy to make that motion that we go with the superintendent's recommendation to continue the status of our mask policy through at least the January 13th board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute. I was supposed to ask for discussion.
I do have one question maybe for the attorney. Just since we are meeting a week later than we normally would, does that have any impact to the state law of, or is that just, it's not a 30-day, it's just at a monthly board meeting?
It's just at a monthly board meeting. It's not 30 days. So even if you met on January 31st, you would meet the intent, and you voted on the face covering requirement at that time, you would meet the letter of the law.
Okay, thank you.
Good. All right. Any other comments or questions and discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? On the consent agenda, we have minutes for November 4, 2021, regular meeting session, the personnel report, Berner Child Care Learning Center resolution, school nutrition employee retention incentive plan, facsimile of signature for stamp for board chair, and record retention for and disposal request. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda with the amended personnel report.
Okay. And good.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Information agenda, we have financial reports and policies for first reading. Policy 2240, board appointments to trustees, AB Tech. And policy 2341, discussion of quorums. Our next board meeting will be January 13th, 2022. Can you believe it? And our work session will begin at 4 in the Bowcatcher room. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No discussion of the...
Thank you.